Welcome into the Make Your Money Matter show. I'm Brad Barrett. Today on our show, we're going to talk about the election. It's 2024. We have an election in November. We all know it's coming. We've seen it on the news. They're going to be reminding you the entire year. So I want to talk about trends in the market, your money, and the relationship you have between those two during an election year. But before we get started, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. All right, let's get into it. So as many of you know who watch and listen to our show, I've been a financial advisor for nearly 20 years now, and I've experienced 4 or 5 election cycles as an advisor. And I've shared this with many clients and thousands of plans that we've ran on all the different scenarios that can come around that. I've seen Republicans, I've seen Democrats, I've seen incumbents, we've seen new people. I mean, and this, not to say this year is going to be like every other year, but I do want to share some data that I actually found very interesting. Morningstar ran a report, and we'll throw the slide up here in a second, and it's regarding stocks and the overall stock market during a presidential election year. Now, essentially, what this graph shows us, if you look at it, and again, I'm not saying that this year, 2024, by no means is going to be the same. Remember, it's not supposed to be what's going to happen this year, but it actually went back almost 100 years, which I thought was really very cool, actually, from a context standpoint. It went from January 1st, 1926 until December 31st, 2023, just a month or so ago. And I found this very fascinating. They broke it down by quarter. So in the first quarter, on average, U.S. stocks in a presidential year were up on average 1.3%. And the second quarter was up on average of 1.5%. Now, interestingly enough, and you can see that the first half of a presidential election year tends to be somewhat sluggish, but it's also followed by a big second half. Now, if you look at this data set, nearly 100 years, reminding you, right? You can go back and you can do the historical data on it, but you're going to see a whole bunch of different elections during that 100 years. You're going to see different time periods, different people, different parties, all of it's combined. So I find it interesting when we talk about this and look at it from, again, a context, the perception and the illusion, which we kind of talked about as well, how we perceive things matters. And there's terms in the economics world that we call black swan events. And on average, and these are uncertain events, things we don't have planned that happens throughout a year, and on average, there's about 200 of them. And it can range from an election year to a CEO has a mistress or something, or the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee, is talking about rate hikes next week, and anywhere in between. Now, there's some that are just out of the blue random, okay? Events throughout the day, but my point I'm trying to bring up is we tend to get really focused, really myopic on one big event, like say November of this year, when the reality is over the next 12 months, we're gonna see a whole bunch of different events. So the reality is, and I know this is gonna sound boring, but staying true to your plan, trusting the process, and to remember, past performance, by the way, does not reflect future gains by any means. This is just showing nearly 100 years of the average of what's happening during the election cycle, presidential election. I think it's very interesting data sets to look at. And so I saw this data set and wanted to share it with you so you can have an idea to talk with your advisor, or if you're a client listening here, to talk about it with us, because we'll bring it up in regards to making sure we don't want to, we don't want to overreact, right, to an election year or any other year for that matter, if there's some sort of historic event that's going on in relationship to the market and your portfolio. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that today. If you did, make sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss a single episode. And always remember to make your money matter.